Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be showing off all the assault records that you can get in the game. So you got two sections, the Slovakia and Ameria, so we've unlocked everything. So first thing I want to go and say off the bat is numbers 1 through to 12, you get these by completing missions in the game, like completing story missions. You'll shoot these people down during the story. I believe, and that should be how you get all of the Strigon members, Strigons 1 to 12. Numbers 13 all the way through to 27 are named aces. Now, named aces work a little bit differently from the Strigon, so you need to be playing on expert difficulty or ace difficulty for these enemies to spawn in certain missions, and some of them come with certain conditions to make them spawn. So today is just going over the assault records. I have a separate video going over each of these named aces, where we look at where to find them and how to get them to spawn in, etc, etc. And we'll be doing a separate video for that. But today we're just going to be going through the assault record. Now the Republic, so that's it. So these are named aces. You get them from shooting them down on expert or ace. The Strigon members, you get them through completing the story. The Republic of Ameria also has its own assault records. Now they have a lot of different ones. So I believe so first off, I'm going to talk about all these numbers 28 through to 43. You get these by completing every operation that they were a part of. So for instance, look at this. So number 28 is Warlock Battalion. So every operation that Warlock Battalion is in charge of, you need to complete. And then once you've completed every operation that Warlock Battalion is a part of, you'll unlock the assault record for them. So that's how you get numbers 28 through to 42. 43. Garuda 2, Marcus Lampert, I'm pretty sure he just unlocks once you finish the story. Garuda 1, I think that assault record unlocks once you unlock every other assault record. So you need that's the last one you should get. I believe that's how that works. I do have a couple of guides linked in the description that I use for this game, so you can go and check up on them if you want specifics. I'll have them linked in the description. For now, let's just go through the assault records. So we're going to start with number 1. Strigon leader Viktor Wojciech. Viktor Wojciech is Strigon leader. He is the Slovakian Central Forces Prison Air Force Intelligence Bureau. Serving as the commander of the Eastern Faction's elite Strigon team during the war, Viktor Wojciech's party gained control of the central government at the war's conclusion. The victory for him, however, was short-lived as he was critically wounded in the preceding Ameria-Slovakia war. No longer able to fly, he was reassigned to the position of intelligence officer, specialising in interrogating enemy POW pilots. Once a loyal soldier and countryman, he was unable to come to terms with the Slovakian plan to destroy Grace Meria at the cost of countless civilian lives, and made it his personal endeavour to stop it. So this is basically the guy that we follow throughout the entire story. And as you can see, he flies an Su-33. I'm pretty sure all of the Strigons, yep, it looks like they all fly Su-33s, apart from one, Ilya Pasternak, who flies a special plane. So then, number 2, we have Strigon 3, Karlo Bogdanovic. Karlo Bogdanovic, a skilled pilot serving with the Strigon team since its inception, his somewhat arrogant attitude led to countless conflicts with other squadron members. However, his decisive battle instincts often played a large part in leading the squadron to victory. Karlo Bogdanovic and his wingman were shot down by the Garuda team in the battle for Bartolomeo Fortress. Failure to perform routine aircraft maintenance between patrols, followed by an emergency sortie immediately thereafter, is believed to have been the cause. So these descriptions will usually also tell you what mission you can find these people in. So this one's Bartolomeo Fortress for this guy. Strigon 4, Savitko Dudik. A hardened pilot of the Slovakian Civil War, Savitko Dudik's 4-plane coordinated attack was said to have been so intense that during training, even Strigon leader Colonel Wojciech had to push his skills to the limit just to keep up. Dudik's aircraft, along with 3 other squadron members, were shot down in the Battle of Silva, while engaging the Garuda team and Amerian reinforcements. Strigon 5. Federico Giarni. Federico Giarni's years of real battle experience, training and simulations certified his position as a mentor of rookie Strigon pilots. Both of his wingmen were shot down by American forces while battling to defend the Aigaion. Although his team lost the battle, he continued an all-out assault on the Garuda team, recording the battle data until the moment of his defeat. It is said for future generations of pilots to learn from. Dirijo Kovac, Strigon 2. Midway through the Estovakian Civil War, the Eastern faction formed the Vampire team through forceful integration of various insurgent ace pilots. Strigon team's second in command, Ilya Pasternak, was assigned with leading the Vampire team, while Dirijo Kovac took his place as Strigon's number 2. Kovac's stern attitude is said to have played a key role in holding the team together. Strigon team leader Lieutenant Commander Wojciech's injuries sustained during the attack on Grace Meria saw Kovac promoted again to team leader. While defending Aigaion, he and 2 wingmen were shot down by the Garuda team. Strigon 4, Franz Leko. Initially a member of the Vampire team, Franz Leko was transferred as additional support for the struggling Strigon team. Forsaking danger, he was known to have gone to any means necessary to complete the mission. His ultra-low spearhead infiltration of enemy territory, successfully resulting in the destruction of all enemy aircraft guns, was a deciding factor in the battle between the Eastern faction and the Island Coalition, and remains the crowning moment of the Estovakian Civil War. Leko and both his wingmen were killed when shot down by the Garuda team while in pursuit over the Moloch Desert. Strigon 5, Nino Lubeck. During the Estovakian Civil War, Nino Lubeck was transferred to the Vampire team just before the decisive confrontation between the Eastern faction and the Liège United Front. Affectionately known as an easygoing and father-like squad leader, the loss of several comrades during the war transformed him to such an extent that while on the Vampire team, he was feared as the cold-blooded assassin, not so much as flinching at the death of a comrade. His 3-plane formation was shot down by the Garuda team while giving pursuit over the Moloch Desert. He is currently listed as MIA. Strigon leader Ilya Pasternak. This is the man you fight in the Nosferatu, the endgame boss, basically. Well, not quite endgame, but you know what I mean. As the CFA 44 Nosferatu. When you retake, I think it's when you retake Grace Meria is when you take him on. Holding the prominent positions of both Strigon team's second in command and the Vampire team leader during the Estovakian Civil War, Ilya Pasternak also served as leader of the reorganised Strigon team during the Ameria-Estovakia War, after severe casualties compelled the consolidation of the Vampire and Strigon teams. So they were originally 2 different teams and then had to consolidate into one. His illustrious battle record was marked by many medals befitting an ace, including the Golden Medal of Marksmanship. Owning the trust of his first commanding officer, Viktor Wojciech, his unfaltering confidence and cool-headedness in the face of danger also garnered him the undying admiration of his subordinates. A born ace with an untarnished record, he died a valiant death while engaging the Garuda team over Grace Meria, so that his 12 team members could escape. Strigon 2, again, Alexei Cheshenko? Carrying out combat research as a member of an Estovakian aggressor squadron before the Civil War, Alexei Cheshenko is said to have mastered the failings of every major enemy air force. Originally a member of the Northern Highlands faction, he was defeated by the Strigon team and reassigned as an initial member of the Vampire team during the Civil War. Despite a continued rivalry with Ilya Pasternak, he respected his skills as a pilot and flew as his right-hand man. As squad commander of the final Chandelier defence team, his 4-plane formation endeavoured unsuccessfully to hold back the enemy and were defeated in battle. Strigon 3, Yaroslav Deryagin. squad commander of the Island Coalition during the Civil War, Yaroslav Deryagin was shot down by Strigon team and subsequently reassigned to the Vampire team prior to their decisive battle with the Liège United Front. A rather calm-mannered and good-natured man, he found a likewise mind in Ilya Pasternak amongst the otherwise fiery personalities of the Vampire team. Both Deryagin and his 2 wingmen perished in the Chandelier defensive operation. Stepan Fagin was enrolled in former Estavakia's military freight school when the Civil War broke out. He became entangled in an aerial battle during his first sortie and managed to down 2 enemy pilots despite having no practical battle experience. This display of raw talent quickly earned him a position on the Strigon team along with Tosha Miyasik. He was one of the few original Strigon team pilots to survive until the end of the war, but was eventually shot down during the Chandelier defensive operation, and he is currently listed as MIA. And finally, Strigon 12, Tosha Miyasik. A high school student at the outbreak of the Estavakian Civil War, Tosha Miyasik quickly registered for service in the Eastern faction. Quick and decisive, he was soon assigned to the Strigon team. Superstitious in nature, he continued to use the same flight number 12 throughout his career. Following the death of Ilya Pasternak, he broke away from his fellow team members and surrendered to Emeria. He has since become the surviving voice of the Strigon legacy. Oh, so that's why he wasn't over Chandelier, that's why he's not shot down, because he actually surrendered. I didn't know that, actually. And now we are getting into the named aces territory, so these are the ones you need to play on expert or ace and shoot them down in specific missions. So I believe these missions, so number 13 is mission 1, mission 2, mission 3, 4, 5, 6, blah blah blah. I believe that's how they go. I'm pretty sure that is how they go. So you could find this guy in mission 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. But I will do a separate video showing them off actually in mission. So here we go, number 13. Lucijan Markovic, Pegas, is his call sign. A graduate ace of the renowned Northern Pegasus Training Academy, Lucijan Markovic's actions at the beginning of the Estavakian Civil War outshined those of even the Strigon and Vampire teams. During the war, however, his former renown was overshadowed by those of Viktor Wojciech and Ilya Pasternak. Almost as if he was recklessly seeking to regain his former glory, he successfully pressed the assault on Grace Meria, but was shot down soon thereafter. Edenorog, what call sign? Mihaj. I'm butchering these names. I'm sorry. I'm not great with this, but I'll try my best. Mihajlo Mesic. Oh, the game's gonna make me say it again. Mihailo Mesic initially achieved notoriety during the Civil War as one of the Liège United Front's few ace pilots. However, his team was forced to disband following their devastating loss to the Eastern faction. Having been recognised for his ability to quickly identify and terminate the enemy chain of command, the outbreak of the Emeria-Estavakia War saw him reassigned as a bomber escort. As the conflict was coming to a close, he was shot down when his bombing squadron ran into heavier than anticipated resistance over Vitoze on Kesed Island. And then Drakon. Zoran Mikulanek. An ace pilot of the Eastern faction during the Estavakian Civil War, Zoran Mikulanek took part in the citywide bombing campaign of the Liège United Front Tank Brigade. The mission's success was pivotal in bringing the Eastern faction closer to victory, but for him ironically signified the destruction of his hometown. The infamy gained by the callousness of this action is said to have troubled him for the rest of his life. During the Emeria-Estavakian War, he was assigned to the Kesed Island front lines, charged with defending the Sipla fields. After the evacuation order was given, he attempted to hold the line, but was shot down. Kentavar Ozrun Milos. Serving as a base defense pilot for the Island Coalition during the Estavakian Civil War, Ozan Milos successfully repelled countless Liège United Front attacks, even succeeding in defeating what was known then as the deadliest naval squadron. His tactics of confusing large squadrons in order to single out and attack individual aircraft gained him high regard as a defensive pilot. During the American-Estavakian War, he was shot down while serving on the Bartolomeo Fortress defensive network. You should also note that you can see what plane they fly in the top left, just above the picture. So you can see there, Pegasus an F-22A, Eden is an F-16 Fighting Falcon, Dracon was a Tornado GR, and Kentavar was an Su-47. I should also note something else. Each of these named aces that you need to shoot on an expert come with a unique paint scheme for that plane, so that's how you unlock paint schemes, but that's for a different video. We go Oriol Dragan Panadik. In his time as a ground sweeping specialist during the Estavakian Civil War, Dragan Panadik earned the nickname Southern Vulture. During the initial phases of the war, he was a member of the Independent Tariff Federation. However, after being integrated into the Liège United Front, he gained notoriety for leading countless attacks on enemy cities. The viciousness of his attacks garnered both fear and animosity from many of the Estavakian Federation command. The America-Estavakian War saw him once again decimating record numbers of enemy ground troops. And here we go, Vega, Irina Dvornik, the only woman, I believe, on the assault records. She flies a Rafale M. Irina Dvornik was an Eastern Faction female ace pilot. While her flight record does not quite measure up with other aces of the war, being both a young woman and a general's daughter, she soon became iconified as the Estavakian army's official poster girl, where her influence over Allied morale was immeasurable. At the outbreak of the America-Estavakia War, she was hailed as the goddess of victory, but as the American assault pressed inland, her father continually sought to transfer her away from the battlefront and out of harm's way. Unable to ignore the American advance, however, she continually disobeyed orders, eventually joining Allied pilots in an intercept against the Garuda team, where she was shot down. And then, I can't pronounce that, Dezoker, Gunther Kleber. Before the Estavakian Civil War, Gunther Kleber was the lead flight instructor for a North Ocean Security Corporation. Working as a liaison between the Security Corporation and their parent arms manufacturing corporation, he was able to lay the foundation for a robust pilot training facility which would go on to produce many of Estavakia's finest pilots. During the Civil War, he is rumoured to have run many clandestine operations, including the destruction of a Western Army supply base. Further details remain undetermined, however data analysis has led to the hypothesis that he may have served as the leader of an unidentified fighter squadron. Hoping to catch the enemy off guard, he broke away from the main force while on a mission over the peak of Salumna, but was discovered by the Garuda team and shot down. Rusalka. Oh, sorry about that. Goran Rozandik. A member of the Estavakian Naval Insurgent Independent Tariff Federation, Goran Rozandik served as the Rusalka's team's flight instructors. Once known as Estavakia's deadliest naval squadron, that title was forever lost after his defeat at the hands of a Liège United Front surprise attack. After being absorbed into the Liège United Front, the Rusalka team's unsuccessful attempt to gain control over an island coalition base was soon followed by their near total annihilation at the hands of the Eastern faction. The Devil instructor, Rozandik flew on the front lines of the war, fighting to reclaim the honour of his team's name, but was shot down in the skies over San Loma. Phoenix, Lorenz Riedel. Born in the Principality of Belka, Lorenz Riedel is one of the several Belkan defectors to have helped create the Aigaion. Investigative reports claim that the military technology these defectors brought with them after being ousted from their homeland during the Balkan War became the deciding factor in the outcome of the Estavakian Civil War. Details regarding the nature of the shared technology remain undetermined. He was shot down by American forces while defending the Aigaion. Oblako Jakov Vabek. A member of the Liège United Front, Yakov Vabek flew in the front lines against the Eastern faction until the very end of the Civil War. During the Ragno defensive operation, his positioning as a sacrificial pawn enraged him to such an extent that despite engaging the Garuda team, he continued to broadcast a torrent of criticism against Estavakia's high command. After being shot down, he was rescued by allied Estavakian forces, perhaps to his dismay, and later court-martialed and found guilty of disobeying a direct order and making slanderous proclamations against the former head of state, but was released from prison at the end of the war. Ritsare Adalbert Radek. A formidable tactician, Adalbert Radek's actions are said to have contributed greatly to the Eastern faction's ability to secure supremacy over such a wide area despite the lack of ground support. He continued to accrue an impressive record against the American advance, leading his squadron to unparalleled acclaim, while accumulating equally severe losses. He was shot down over the Moloch Desert while defending the tank forces from an overwhelming enemy onslaught. His selfless and courageous efforts to defend Allied troops in the face of danger rallied the morale of all. Fliuger Miljan Zorinsky. Born and raised in Estavakia, Miljan Zorinsky made a name for himself as a player and a troublemaker. Serving as an anti-ship attack specialist during the Ameria-Estavakia War, he proved a continual threat to American naval vessels. While on aerial patrol over Fort Norton, the American Air Force's Garuda team managed a high-speed, low-altitude intrusion just below his position. Zorinsky was shot down while trying to intervene. Records show that after his rescue by Allied forces, he was court-martialed for his failure. Valery Nikitov. During the outset of the war, Valery Nikitov served alongside a combined Aigaion and the Strigon team defensive umbrella over all four King and Balloon operations to recapture Grasmeria. In the final stages of the war, the South Sea Fleet was given the order to defend Grasmeria to the death, and subsequently gathered in the port to bombard the enemy advance and provide air superiority support. As a pilot of the 3rd Carrier Air Wing, Nikitov is known to have taken part in the operation, but his whereabouts thereafter are unknown. An evaluation of his aircraft's final radio transmissions suggests that he may have been shot down in a skirmish with the Garuda team. Dama Václav Reinek. A naval ace, Václav Reinek played an active role in countless operations including air-to-ground, air-to-ship, and patrol operations. The winning combination of Reinek and his co-pilot set the standard for 2C aircraft and boasted having never once been hit by enemy fire. During his impressive career, Reinek even took part in the early Doi Palm Bay offensive, but in the end of the war marked his defeat at the hands of the Garuda team while on mission to report the impact of Allied cruise missiles. It's said that Reinek had an argument with his co-pilot over the cruise missile attack and went on sortie without him. This was the one and only time the two did not fly together. And finally, Korol Gustav Dvornik, who, by the way, is the father of Irina Dvornik Vega. A general of the Estavakian military regime, so a high-ranking general, one of the generals that took control, and basically the commander of the entire, thing. The Eastern faction's supreme commander during the Estavakian Civil War, Gustav Dvornik worked tirelessly to restore unity to Estavakia. During the Estavakia-Ameria War, he held command over all armed forces as both the Central Forces Precinct Commander and Expeditionary Forces General. At the beginning of the conflict, Dvorak utilised blitzkrieg tactics to bring the entire continent temporarily under Estavakian command. However, he was unable to stop the following American counter-advance, and after the war's halfway point, faced one major defeat after another, and the death of his daughter. Dvorak narrowly escaped through the American defensive net just as it was circling in on Grace Meria and returned to his homeland, where he secretly conducted the Chandelier counter-strike preparations. Reports suggest he perished when the American Air Force destroyed the Chandelier, while others suggest he was shot down while trying to escape the explosion. And that's it for the Federal Republic of Estavakia Assault Record. So I just had a thought, how cool would it be if you could play like two campaigns, one Ameria and one Estavakia, and like how cool would all the Ace Combat games been if you had the choice to play, like for Ace Combat 4 you could play as Yuktobania as well as Osha at like two different campaigns. That would be so cool. I'd have loved that. That would have been great. Maybe one day. Anyway, on to the Republic of Ameria. They also have their own separate assault records. So Gary Campbell, who is the leader of Warlock's separate battalion stationed at Kesed Island. This battalion was thought to be stationed far from the conflict, however their role changed once the war with Estavakia began, and the last of the American Air Force fled to Kesed Island. Along with Garuda Team, this battalion became a symbol of Ameria's hope. Warlock was the main ground force in almost every Garuda Team operation, eventually helping to free Grace Meria. On account of Campbell's likeable personality and heroism during the war, Warlock went from being the defence force of an isolated island to national heroes. Anthony Doyle, who is the leader of Quock's Armoured Battalion. After the lightning-quick advance of Estavakian forces, Quock's lost many soldiers in their retreat to the west. They succeeded in escaping to Kesed Island despite Estavakia controlling the sea. Quock's was one of the only functional American ground forces remaining and accompanied the Garuda Team in many of their operations. They particularly shone in operations to reclaim Kesed Island and landing operations during the battle for Grace Meria. Although slightly reckless, the heroic actions of this battalion helped to rally fellow ground forces. And then Bobby Fitzgerald, the leader of Tank Battalion Steel Gunners. The war with Estavakia broke out while he was stationed at Grace Meria for reserve training. Showing great promise, especially for a reserve member, he was promoted to battalion leader. After the reclamation of Kesed Island, he supported the main force by engaging the enemy in local fighting. Towards the end of the war, he joined the main force in surrounding Grace Meria and liberating the capital. Punctual in nature, his battle operations were carried out like clockwork. He was also extremely adept at highly mobile local fighting. It is said he accomplished every mission precisely as planned. Andrew Gallagher, leader of the Dragon Busters, a tank battalion in charge of defending cities along the western part of the continent. Despite losing 70% of their forces in fierce fighting, the Dragon Busters continued to defend Silva until the Garuda Team arrived. Later, they reorganised and took part in the battle to reclaim Grace Meria. They became famous for taking the Congress Hall. Gallagher was well liked by those around him thanks to his sincere and humble personality. Then we have Ed Alvarez, who is the leader of Gabriel Tank Battalion. Raised in a family of American military elite and had a promising future. After graduating from military academy and being assigned to a tank battalion, the war began. Amidst the confusion, he was assigned to defend the western cities. Along with the aid of the Garuda Team, he took part in the anti-gun train operations and led American forces to victory at the Battle of Silvat. Jose Cesar Torres, leader of the Grizzly Tank Battalion. Deployed to defend the western cities at the outbreak of the war, he successfully repelled the first Estavakian offence by employing a mobile defence. This defence afforded enough time to establish a defensive line around Silvat. During the battle at Silvat, Grizzly was cut off and surrounded by the enemy but were able to return safely after being rescued by the Garuda Team. And Alan Buckman. The only records left show that Alan Buckman was a platoon leader before the war. He took over the Barracuda Armoured Battalion after the leader was killed in action at Silvat. He was able to pull the troops together and defeat elite enemy forces with the help of the Garuda Team. Later, the battalion was reorganised into the Dragon Busters, of which he became a member. Okay, so here we go. Wind Hover, Daniel Polini. After the attack by Estavakian forces, Daniel Polini went to defend Grace Meria, but was forced to retreat to Kesed Island. He organised a new squadron and, along with the Garuda team, participated in operations to defend Kesed Island, advance on the mainland, and recapture Grace Meria. He is one of the key figures who helped achieve victory in the war with Estavakia. A passionate man who inspired his squadron, his clear judgment made him an invaluable ally of the Garuda team. And then Avalanche, Freddy Durand. The war began soon after Freddy Durand became a squadron leader. Lacking in experience, he suffered the humiliation of abandoning Grace Meria and subsequently fleeing to Kesed Island. Later, he gained valuable experience while flying numerous sorties, and eventually became a central part of the Naval Air Wing, which aided in recapturing Grace Meria. His good looks and reassuring confidence earned him a position alongside the Garuda team as an inspiration for the citizens of Meria. Sky Kid, Stephen McCarthy. Stephen McCarthy was at an outpost at the start of the war and survived the initial attack unscathed. He was assigned to defend the western cities from the Estavakian advance and became their chief protector. He regrouped with the Garuda team and Kesed Island forces during the Battle of Silvat, and again joined the Garuda team during the operations to defeat Aigaion and conquer Ragnall Fortress. His superior flight skills made him a model pilot. Stingray, Justin Suzuki. Ordinarily, Justin Suzuki's squadron was assigned to defend Grace Meria, but was away from the capital on training manoeuvres when the war began. With Grace Meria abandoned and nowhere to return to, he was encircled by the enemy, but was fled to safety by an allied signal battalion. He went on to defend the skies over Silvat, after which he joined forces with the Garuda team to recapture Grace Meria. It is believed that it was merely by chance that he managed to escape to the west and go on to defend Silvat. Hammerhead, Wayne O'Neill. Until several days before the war, Wayne O'Neill had planned to move away from actual air combat. However, after the Estavakian assault, he was forced to return to the front line. Enemy air superiority initially restricted his field of operations, but he later participated in bombing operations at San Loma and the Moloch Desert Field Headquarters. Yellow Jacket, Richard Lee. Richard Lee was raised in a family of farmers on the Oceanian continent, but immigrated to America after meteor damage robbed him of his livelihood. At the outbreak of the war, he devoted himself to the support and rescue of isolated units throughout the continent. Reuniting with the main force at Kesed Island, he helped the Garuda team, often heading up dangerous assault missions. In contrast to his appearance as a kind middle-aged man, Yellow Jacket was a renowned opponent of the Estavakian ground forces. Snakebit, Guy Stewart. The American Air Force lost its position of air superiority after suffering serious losses at the outset of the war. During this bleak period, the 303rd Airborne Air Control Squadron was moved from Ortana to Kesed Island in an effort to bolster remaining strength there. Thanks to the efforts of several ace pilots, America was able to slowly regain air superiority. Guy Stewart was dispatched to battlefields on various fronts to provide invaluable electronic support for the otherwise outnumbered American forces. Backed by the Garuda team, the two became a symbol of the American war effort and a key component in obtaining American victory. However, Guy Stewart often failed to realise how invaluable he was to the war effort, and unnecessarily placed himself in the path of danger on countless occasions. Kenneth Ford. The Second Fleet suffered massive damage in the initial sudden attack by Estavakian forces. The remaining ships regrouped around the Marigold and broke through the enemy encirclement to escape to the west. When American ground forces were backed into a corner, Kenneth was able to break through the blockade by employing diversional tactics and transport remaining American troops to Kesed Island, despite a superior Estavakian naval presence. During the continental counterattack, Kenneth kept the Estavakian navy pinned down and aided in landing operations. During the ensuing battle to liberate Grace Meria, he bombarded enemy positions along the coastline. And Ralph Wash, who is actually Sherpa, I believe? Yeah, Sherpa battalion leader. Assigned to defending the Western Front, he was initially driven out by the overwhelming enemy advance. The Garuda team subsequently saved him from certain defeat at the Battle of Silvat. Afterwards, he performed a modest but important role as electronic support for the Allied forces, helping to win several major battles. However, leading Allied troops to safety after the fall of Grace Meria is considered his greatest achievement. And finally, Garuda 1 and Garuda 2. Garuda 2 first, Marcus Lampert. Marcus Lampert was assigned to the Garuda team as a result of the need for provisional forces after the Estevakian attack on Grace Meria, and went on to participate in various operations as Garuda's number 2. With the loss of Grace Meria, the evacuation saw him leaving behind his wife and child. Proving a reliable wingman for Garuda 1, the two soon earned renown among allies and enemies alike. Despite playing a major role in the successful recapture of Grace Meria, his family was lost in the conflict. Broken-hearted, he took flight to destroy Estevakia's ultimate weapon, the Chandelier, but was shot down by anti-aircraft fire while flying low-altitude reconnaissance. Miraculously, he ejected in time to be rescued by Allied forces. And Garuda 1, person we play as for the whole time. Obviously, we don't know his name, age, or gender, well, blood type, we don't know anything. Little information can be found on this pilot and his background prior to the Ameria-Estevakian War. In 2013, he was assigned to the Eastern Air Defence Division and charged with defending Grace Meria. As the leader of Garuda team, he engaged Estevakian forces on the first day of the conflict. His superior flying skills became apparent during the Battle of Kesed Island, Silvat, and were affirmed with the destruction of the Agaio. Pardon me, talking a lot. A truly formidable ace pilot, his record lists innumerable successful sorties despite insurmountable odds. He became so renowned among friend and foe alike that Estevakia ordered special operations focused solely on his elimination. Much is unclear regarding his career, but it's certain he was a key factor in the victories that helped determine the outcome of the war. He helped free Grace Meria and destroy the Chandelier, becoming an instant hero throughout the Republic of Ameria. And that's it. That's all the assault records. My voice is so glad to be done with that. But thanks for being here for this. When we come back, we'll be going through each named ace. We'll be showing off their location and missions and how to get them to spawn. Thanks very much, and I'll see you then.